clearing by lunchtime, so a decent chance of sunshine in the east by the afternoon, whilst further west the cloud builds and another spell of rain moves in. It also brings milder air, 12 Celsius in the southwest, whilst it stays cold, 6 or 7 further east. And here's that band of showery rain. Nothing too problematic. It moves east for most places during Thursday afternoon and evening, clearing during the early hours, I think, from the far southeast. Then, once that's out of the way, we're into a clear spells and showery regime, with those showers pushing quite quickly into western areas, whilst clearing skies further east could lead to a touch of frost in some sheltered spots, but most places frost-free because of the breeze, I think, on Friday morning. The best of the sunshine on Friday will be in the east, perhaps the Midlands and southern England as well. However, in the northwest and west, we'll see frequent showers moving in, hail and thunder, snow over the mountains, and it will feel cold in the breeze. Saturday starts off chilly before rain arrives later, milder in the south on Sunday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, are Boris Johnson and his officials laughing in our faces yet again with their unfathomable decision to enact Plan B after that bombshell Christmas party tape? I urge you all to resist entering a hellscape of yearly winter lockdowns and restrictions in my digest. And will my superstar panel of Fleet Street legend Neil Wallace, author and GB News host Tonya Buxton, and political commentator Daisy McAndrew stand with me? I'll get their verdict after the digest. Then, does the government have the authority to force more COVID measures on us when public confidence is at an all-time low? Conservative MP Sir Christopher Shope and Boris biographer Tom Bower will thrash that out in the clash. Is Plan B actually the biggest threat to democracy in modern history? Spike columnist Brendan O'Neill fears so he'll be today's outsider. Does the introduction of vaccine passports suggest the government has stopped following the science and is looking for a distraction? That's the view of Reform UK leader Richard Tice. He'll be here at 10:20. will the return of work from home kill off Britain's ravaged economy? And do you have regrets about how you behaved in lockdown after learning what the government was allegedly getting up to? My panel will weigh in on the story of the day in tonight's Media Buzz. Also tonight, is Fergie right to brand herself the most persecuted woman in royal history? Robert Jobson takes a look at the Queen's, divorcees and other figures broken by the firm and crown jewels. And is Liz Truss right that infighting about Britain's history will empower our enemies? Rod Liddell gives his verdict in Uncancelled. And on what is a very busy news day, we'll bring you the newspaper front pages hot off the press. This is Dan Wootton tonight. Let's go. Just one thing first, though. It has been a disturbing 24 hours in the development of how our supposedly democratic and free society will fight an endemic virus with a reminder, 99.8% survival rate. I'll react to the introduction of Plan B today as Boris tries to distract from that catastrophic Downing Street Christmas party leak. But I'm actually shocked to my core tonight that the former Libertarian refused to rule out mandatory vaccinations, opening up the horror show of the UK following the civil unrest of Germany and Austria.
It's said right at the beginning of this pandemic that I think, or as soon as we were really talking about vaccination seriously, that I didn't want us to have a society and a culture where we force people to get vaccinated. There is going to come a point if we can show that the vaccines are capable of holding the of Omicron, and that's the key thing that I think that we need to test. Well, I do think that we're going to have a conversation about ways in which we deal with this pandemic, because I want to be absolutely clear with you. I don't believe we can keep going indefinitely with non-pharmaceutical interventions, I mean restrictions on people's way of life, where just because a substantial proportion of the population still, sadly, has not got vaccinated. And I think we're going to need to have a national conversation about the way forward and the other things.
How on earth did we get here? And more importantly, what do we do now? The fight back begins in my digest shortly. Then my superstar panel react. Tonight, it is the author and GB News presenter Tonya Buxton, the former newspaper editor and media consultant Neil Wallace, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. But first, the news with Simon Pusey.
Hello, I'm Simon Pusey. These are your latest news headlines. The Prime Minister has announced England will move to Plan B COVID restrictions to curb the spread of the new variant. Across the UK, 131 additional Omicron cases have been confirmed today, bringing the total number to 568. Boris Johnson is urging those who can to work from home from Monday. NHS vaccine passports will be mandatory in nightclubs, and from this Friday, face coverings will be compulsory in crowded indoor spaces, including cinemas and theatres.
Since I last spoke to you, it's become increasingly clear that Omicron is growing much faster than the previous Delta variant, and it's spreading rapidly all around the world. So while the picture may get better, and I sincerely hope that it will, we know that the remorseless logic of exponential growth could lead to a big rise in hospitalisations and therefore, sadly, in deaths. And that's why it's now the proportionate and the responsible thing to move to Plan B in England.
Meanwhile, the Met Police say they won't, at this stage, formally investigate allegations around the Downing Street Christmas party allegedly held under lockdown restrictions. It follows a leaked video obtained by ITV News, which shows an advisor to the Prime Minister joking about an alleged party held in Number 10 in December last year. Allegra Stratton was seen laughing with other staff about cheese and wine during a mock briefing 4 days after the event. Boris Johnson told MPs he was furious with the conduct of his staff and ordered an investigation. Hours later, Ms Stratton announced her resignation.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules that people were doing everything to obey. That was never my intention. I will regret those remarks for the rest of my days, and I offer my profound apologies to all of you at home for them. I understand the anger and frustration that people feel. To all of you who lost loved ones, who endured intolerable loneliness, and who struggled with your businesses, I am truly sorry, and this afternoon I am offering my resignation to the Prime Minister.
That was Allegra Stratton speaking a little earlier. Now, a new poll shows most people think the lockdown Christmas party did happen, despite Number 10's constant denials. The poll by Opinium found fewer than 1 in 10 voters believe Downing Street's claim that no party took place. 64% think the event happened, with 9% saying it didn't. And for the first time, the majority of voters, that's 53%, think Boris Johnson should resign as Prime Minister.
Opinion poll out today showed that the majority of the country, for the first time, a majority think that he should resign from the job that he's doing. The vast majority don't trust and believe that what he says. So he isn't a particularly popular politician. More people think that the moon landings were faked than think the Prime Minister is telling the truth about this story.
You're right up to date. Now back to Dan Wootton tonight.
So what do you do when your credibility to insist the British public must continue to follow draconian legal curbs on their civil liberties and freedoms has been well and truly crushed? Introduce even more restrictions, of course. COVID Plan B is a horror show of vaccine passports, mask mandates, work from home orders, and even a national conversation about mandatory vaccination.
We will reintroduce the guidance to work from home. Employers should use the rest of the week to discuss working arrangements with their employees, but from Monday, you should work from home if you can. Second, from this Friday, we will further extend the legal requirement to wear a face mask to most public indoor venues, including theatres and cinemas. Third, we'll also make the NHS COVID pass mandatory for entry into nightclubs and venues where large crowds gather, including unseated indoor venues with more than 500 people, unseated outdoor venues with more than 4,000 people, and any venue with more than 10,000 people.
This unfathomable decision by Boris Johnson's government today, as they failed to distract the public from a storm of revelations surrounding last year's Downing Street Christmas party following that leaked footage of his then spokeswoman, Allegra Stratton, who carefully quit today, joking about the bash in a practice press conference.
Would the Prime Minister condone having a Christmas party?
What's the answer?
I don't know. It wasn't a party, it was cheese and wine.
Just be clear, it's not. Is cheese and wine all right?
No.
It was a business meeting.
I'm joking.
It is recorded. His fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced.
I understand the anger and frustration that people feel. To all of you who lost loved ones, who endured intolerable loneliness, and who struggled with your businesses, I am truly sorry. And this afternoon, I am offering my resignation to the Prime Minister. Thanks for your time.
Having spent all week denying the existence of such a party, Boris this afternoon threw his staff under the bus, issued a grovelling apology, and launched an investigation by the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case, even though he might have attended the non-party himself.
Understand and share the anger up and down the country at seeing Number 10 staff seeming to make light of lockdown measures. And I can understand how infuriating it must be to think that the people who have been setting the rules have not been following the rules, Mr. Speaker, because I was also furious to see that clip. And Mr. Speaker, I apologise unreservedly for the offence that it has caused up and down the country, and I apologise for the impression that it gives.
The sad reality is that Boris Johnson's once great premiership is facing its choppiest waters, with even the leader of the Scottish Tories, Douglas Ross, suggesting the Christmas party could end up becoming a resignation matter.
If the Prime Minister knew about this party last December, knew about this party last week and was still denying it, then that is the most serious allegation, and there's absolutely no way you can mislead Parliament and think you would be able to get off with that. And that would be a matter not just for me, but I would have thought Lindsay Hoyle as the Speaker of the House of Commons and many, many others would be raising. Misleading Parliament in that way is completely unacceptable, and no one should continue in their post if they mislead Parliament in that way.
OK. I accept all of that, and I accept that the Downing Street Christmas party is a scandal and it is enraging. But what's far more disturbing is the government's addiction to the power and control of further COVID curbs. To introduce Plan B at the start of December, when there has not been one proven death from the Omicron variant anywhere in the world, is the worst sort of overreach. We are sleepwalking into a fundamental realignment of the relationship between government and the people. And I say hell no to that. Keep away from my life and my liberties. I've had enough. The arrogance of introducing more controls on the British people at a time when we know the Prime Minister's own officials have been laughing in the faces of those of us who stupidly followed the draconian restrictions is a bridge too far for me. With even COVID hysterics like Joe Biden and CNN urging calm in light of a lack of information about Omicron, Boris and our government, enabled by the Grinch-like doomsday scientists, seem to be running around like headless chickens. The real-world implications of their proposed measures are horrifying. Plan B is estimated to cost £18 billion, knocking 2% off GDP. And remember, more poverty equals more deaths. Working from home will be the final nail in the coffin for many struggling inner-city businesses. And vaccine passports will slash the profits of the hospitality industry by a predicted 25%, killing off many pubs and restaurants already on life support in the process. Remember, this is the very same Boris Johnson who said in 2004 of ID cards, I will take that card out of my wallet and physically eat it in the presence of whatever emanation of the state has demanded that I produce it. If I am incapable of consuming it whole, I will masticate the card to the point of illegibility. Why are you doing this now, then, Boris? Even Nicola Sturgeon has conceded there is no evidence vaccine passports work. Meanwhile, we're a country where 95% of adults now have COVID antibodies. Incredibly, did you know this? It's 98% of the over 75s. By far the age group most at risk from serious illness or death from COVID. COVID cases occupy just 5% of hospital beds, not even close to overwhelming the NHS. We always knew that variants were coming, and while Omicron might spread faster so far, it appears to actually be far less severe. So for all the talk of learning to live with COVID, Boris's behaviour today suggests anything but. That's why the snaring Stratton footage showing this government is taking the piss out of all of us should be a game changer in how we behave. We should not continue to sacrifice key moments of our lives when we know those in power will not do the same. As the Tory MP Charles Walker, a freedom fighter by the way, said, the number 10 party means that any future lockdowns will be advisory, whatever the law says. Now look, I understand. Some of you are annoyed that I am furious with Boris Johnson about this complete and utter mess. But I am not here to fight for Boris or any politician or any political party for that matter. I'm here to fight for you. If we don't say enough is enough now, then let me tell you, we are entering the hellscape of lockdowns and restrictions on human rights every single winter. I refuse, and that's why I will resist. To respond now, my superstar panel, the author and GB News presenter Tonya Buxton, the former newspaper editor and media consultant Neil Wallace, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Tonya, this feels like a game-changing moment.
So at first I was really, really angry, but then I just feel destitute by what's been going on. And it's been this dripping of sapping away our hopes, sapping away our happiness, really, that they're constantly doing that. I'm really hoping that more people will draw the line, as you were doing, and saying enough is enough. You do not have the right to tell me what to do in my life. We live in a liberal Great Britain. In England in particular, having seen what's been going on in the rest of the nations, we are freer and we will not give up these freedoms. I won't. I've had enough. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to watch my children drop into depression, my friends being lonely, losing family members. It's not going to happen again, not in my life. This is not going to happen and I'm happy to go to prison for it. I won't do it. I won't.
And Tonya, my condolences, but you say that your mother-in-law, who recently passed away, died because of lockdown.
She completely died because of lockdown. If she had been seen by her doctor, who would only do phone consultations and asking things like, what's your pallor like? What's your colour like? Anybody who actually heard her symptoms later said they were very obviously ovarian cancer. And so this went on for nearly 6 months. We took her into A&E, waited for 5.5 hours. They sent her home with paracetamol because they were completely overworked and couldn't deal with it. And she's now died. She's the only person I've know who's died because of COVID. And it's not because of COVID, the virus, but because of lockdowns. And actually, I'm hearing more and more cases of people who are dying because of lockdown. It's going to be a tsunami of deaths that we're going to have to deal with. And then we've got Boris. I'm sorry, that bungling idiot coming out and saying that he's going to put more restrictions. Has he no idea what's been going on in the past 20 months?
I mean, Neil, look, you've been around these types of stories for decades. You must admit the timing of this press conference today is highly suspicious.
Yes, you're right, Dan. I've been around a long time and I've certainly seen a tremendous amount of utterly unscrupulous behaviour by politicians. And please don't let anybody doubt that if he had wanted to do it for this reason, I'm sure he would have done. However, I do think there's another element that comes into it, and I think that that's because Boris lives by fear. I think that he's a man who bumbles through, occasionally stumbles into doing the right thing, and he's done two great things in our time, hasn't he? He's done Brexit, he got Brexit done, and he was the driving force behind the vaccination process.
Yeah.
You know, they were great decisions.
Absolutely.
The problem, and I think the cause of this decision today is the fear that runs in him all the time of what to do when he gets caught out. And he gets caught out all the time. Look how badly he got caught out over the sleaze recently. It was a catastrophic, almost moronically stupid decision he made there. And I've been pro-Boris's behaviour during the pandemic to a significant level, as you know. This, for me, I had a conversation last week with my daughter about this. I told her, A, he wouldn't do it because it was such a stupid thing to do. Wrong. But B, I also said, as someone who has been utterly diligent about this and following all of this stuff, I wasn't going to do it. I lost last Christmas. I'm not losing this one.
No, I completely agree. And Daisy, I think that's going to be a feeling across the country. And that's why I'm so suspicious about the timing of this press conference today, because surely if Boris really wanted to have maximum impact in terms of getting the population behind this ridiculous Plan B, or I'm going to call it Plan BS, he wouldn't have done it today, when actually all we're talking about is the fact that they lied to us and they laughed in our face last Christmas.
I agree with the latter bit of your analysis. I disagree that this was a deliberate diversionary tactic. The only bit of Boris's press conference which I watched in full that I really believed in him when he said was when he pointed out to the Telegraph journalist, why would I do this press conference today? Because I would be inviting these criticisms. And I think actually they had always, my instinct, and from people in Whitehall who tell me, I think this press conference had always been planned for today. And I think the government was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do we go ahead with it today, or do we delay it and look like we're delaying it because of Allegra Stratton and
okay,
the party?
But Tonya, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. why do they want to terrify the entire population over Omicron, which actually looks like it's less severe in terms of causing hospitalizations and deaths? And you've got Joe Biden in the US, who, let's be honest, he's advised by Fauci. He's been incredibly hysterical during this pandemic. Says, actually, there's nothing to worry about. We don't need to worry about new measures. Just calm down.
I don't agree with Daisy. I think that this is causing such a furore because everyone's focusing. Actually, it's the other way round. They're focusing on the parties. They're asking these stupid questions about the parties. I mean, what has happened to journalism? I mean, I spend all of the times that we have these Downing Street things on the television screaming, not at Boris, because Boris is always going to try and dig himself out, and that's what politicians do. But I'm so ashamed of journalism in Britain now. I'm so ashamed of it because they don't ask a single question that I want to know.
And there's a lot to uncover about whether journalists, key journalists, senior journalists who cover these politicians were potentially socialising and at these parties. And for me, I think that comes very close to showing a degree of corruption, actually, between Westminster journalists and politicians who they are meant to keep honest. But Tonya Buxton, Neil Wallace, Daisy McAndrew, do stand by. You're here all night. Coming up, though, is Sarah Ferguson really the most persecuted woman in royal history? Robert Jobson has something to say about that in Crown Jewels. But next, in The Clash, does the government have the authority to introduce Plan B after the furore over that alleged Christmas party? Tory MP Sir Christopher Shope and Boris biographer Tom Bower have strong views on this, and no doubt so do you. Want to know what you think? Tweet me at GBNews and vote in our Twitter poll too. And my email address is open to you right now, dan@gbnews.uk. Can't wait to hear from you after the break.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Gradually through the next 24 hours, the wind is going to ease. Showers will ease with a better chance of some sunshine in places by Thursday. However, some more rain will move in from the west later in the day. Storm Barra is filling and moving away. As a result, the wind, on the whole, starting to lessen during the next 24 hours. And any showery rain that's still wrapped around that area of low pressure will also tend to disappear. But it's going to take some time, so further showers in places through the central zones and northwestern areas overnight. A better chance, though, in places of some clear spells developing through the night. And with those winds coming down, a touch of frost possible for parts of northern England, Scotland, for example, Northern Ireland, where we get some shelter, where we get those clear skies. A bright but chilly start in these locations, and then the last of Storm Barra, this area of cloud and some showers, moves east through Thursday morning, clearing by lunchtime, so a decent chance of sunshine in the east by the afternoon, whilst further west the cloud builds and another spell of rain moves in. It also brings milder air, 12 Celsius in the southwest, whilst it stays cold, 6 or 7 further east. And here's that band of showery rain. Nothing too problematic. It moves east for most places during Thursday afternoon and evening, clearing during the early hours, I think, from the far southeast. Then, once that's out of the way, we're into a clear spells and showery regime, with those showers pushing quite quickly into western areas, whilst clearing skies further east could lead to a touch of frost in some sheltered spots, but most places frost-free because of the breeze, I think, on Friday morning. The best of the sunshine on Friday will be in the east, perhaps the Midlands and southern England as well. However, in the northwest and west, we'll see frequent showers moving in, hail and thunder, snow over the mountains, and it will feel cold in the breeze. Saturday starts off chilly before rain arrives later, milder in the south on Sunday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk. Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Brendan O'Neill, Richard Tice and Rod Liddle all on the way, but time now for the clash. Boris Johnson's authority and even his position as Prime Minister has been called into question today as he introduced more crushing COVID measures despite allegations of an illicit government Christmas party last year. Key figures from the world of politics and beyond have united in piling on Boris, among them GB News star Nigel Farage, who tweeted, "The PM has gone from denying a Christmas party in Number 10 to it may or may not have happened. Now we hear of new parties taking place in the Downing Street flat. Moral authority has completely evaporated. Why should any of us abide by the new restrictions?" Meanwhile, former leader of the Scottish Tories, Ruth Davidson, raged none of this is remotely defensible. Not having busy, boozy, not parties while others were sticking to the rules, unable to visit ill or dying loved ones, nor flat out denying things that are easily provable. Not taking the public for fools. However, Boris hit back prior to tonight's briefing in a fraught PMQs.
It is a great mistake to try to play politics with this issue. And I think that is what he is doing. I think that is what he is doing. And the public, Mr. Speaker, will not like to see, I don't think the public do want to see confidence in their measures, in these measures undermined. I think they can see the difference, Mr. Speaker. We are taking the steps necessary to protect the public, above all, Mr. Speaker, by rolling out the vaccinations, and rather than focusing on the events of a year ago.
Now, as I've said, introducing face mask extensions and a work-from-home order after everything that's come to light is the height of arrogance. But it's your view that I value most. So tell me, does the government have the authority to introduce Plan B measures? You can vote now in my poll and tweet me at GB News. My email, dan@gbnews.uk. But first, I'm going to bring in Tory MP Sir Christopher Chope, who's accused his leader of resorting to scaremongering after a turbulent 24 hours. And he'll be debating Boris biographer Tom Bower, who says we need to wait for more evidence of an alleged party before we write off the PM. So, Sir Christopher Chope, I feel very annoyed about this press conference tonight. Why is Boris deciding to scaremonger at a time when it feels like his moral authority is slipping away?
Well, Dan, at the same time that he was holding the press conference, we in the House of Commons, with the help from the Speaker, had forced the Secretary of State to come along and make a statement to us. And although you haven't given that much coverage, the atmosphere in the House of Commons at 6 o'clock this evening was one where the government must be really worried, because there was only 1.5 people on the Conservative side supporting these measures. They were enthusiastically endorsed by the Labour Party without exception, but almost everybody who spoke from the Conservative benches expressed grave reservations about them. And a government that gets in a position where they have to rely upon opposition votes to get through controversial measures, which is what they're going to have to do next week, is under a lot of stress. And I hope that next week there will be a record rebellion by Conservative MPs against these proposals.
Well, I hope
and
so
that
too.
seems to be coming
because
through.
You are our only hope. You know, the Tory backbench freedom fighters are our only hope, because the leader of no opposition, Keir Starmer, has made it clear he's going to nod all of this through. The Liberal Democrats have let their name down. They are pathetic. So you are our only hope. But I want to bring in Tom Bauer, because, Tom, you think a lot of us are overreacting here, and actually this is certainly not the end of Boris Johnson.
Well, I think that he's clearly very wounded tonight and has been wounded for some weeks. I mean, he's played his cards appallingly, and to actually have even appointed Allegra Stratton was a catastrophic misjudgment, and her blubbering today, this afternoon, confirmed that. What a terrible spectacle. It's been a rotten day for Boris. The problem really is that across Europe, and in particular in SAGE and the scientists, they're urging him to go much, much further. And he is unfortunately undermined by his advisors. And he's weak at the moment. He can't resist what the advisors are saying and advising, except to water it down. So we are faced with an unfortunate situation of a damaged and wounded prime minister, who I fear doesn't know how to rescue himself, although he could if he actually listened to some sound advice.
Well, he certainly needs some grown-ups in there, doesn't he? So, Christopher Shope, OK, there's fury on the backbenchers over the introduction of Plan B, and I would say it's undemocratic that this is just introduced and you get to vote days later. That feels so wrong to me. But what about Boris's position as leader? Is it true that some people are whispering about a potential challenge, that some letters are potentially being sent?
Well, I don't think his leadership itself is under great threat at the moment. There have always been people who have their differences with him. And I think that, as has been said, we need to wait the outcome of this inquiry as to what exactly happened with the party. But I think there is enormous dissatisfaction on the Conservative benches that the man they thought was a freedom fighter seems to be quite the reverse. And even if he doesn't want to get down to the grips of this himself, why doesn't he insist on evidence-based policymaking? As the announcements in the House today from the Health Secretary were concentrating on speculation, may, could, possible, and so on. Those are not expressions that you use when you're imposing new restrictions upon people's liberty. And there is no evidence that the proposals put forward today are actually necessary or desirable. And we know that there are lots of adverse consequences which will flow from them. Boris has got to get a grip with the detail of this policy. And there's no better way of doing that than insisting that there should be a proper evidence-based policy before the Cabinet is asked to take these decisions.
Well, the Cabinet wasn't even asked, were they? Tom Bauer, what happened to Boris Johnson, the libertarian freedom fighter? Was that just some sort of construct rather than a reality?
No, I think it was there, and it has been eroded by several factors. First of all, I do think one's got to take into account his marriage. I mean, Carrie really is a rotten influence on him, and she's a political clot who causes terrible trouble. Whether it's about animals or about wilding in the countryside, or whether it's about the appointment of Allegra Stratton, which was her idea. I also think that he's let down terribly by the poor, appalling quality of the civil service. We saw that yesterday in the Foreign Affairs inquiry into Afghanistan. I mean, what a rabble. All those civil servants were lazy, incompetent, useless. Dereliction of duty. It was shocking. Yeah. And I think he's let down by the scientists. The problem with the scientists is they can't agree themselves, and he is too weak now to resist their alarmist warnings and say, as he did in the summer, we're opening up despite your warnings we shouldn't open up. And even his greatest critics, including Matthew Parry, said, if he gets away with this, I'll never criticize him about COVID in the future. And he got away with it. It was quite right. The problem is he is beleaguered. He looks exhausted. He looks, I mean, his hairstyle today in the Commons was outrageous. And he's a prime minister. He's a prime minister in need of some strong advisors and a new cabinet and new people in Downing Street. And I think that's the problem. Where will he look for them? How will he look for them?
Yeah, no, indeed, because let's be honest, it's Carrie who's choosing them at the moment. And as you say, she's making some terrible decisions. So, Christopher Shope, I just want to come back to this issue of moral authority. What are your constituents saying to you? Do they intend to follow these Plan B regulations? Because I have to be honest, everyone I'm talking to is saying no, 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 not again, especially if you come for our Christmas.
Well, I think there is a real danger that the rule of law is being brought into disrepute because we're asking the law to do things which the people are not going to be supporting, because they're not going to support it because there isn't the evidence as to why it's necessary. So this is quite a big challenge. And if there is effectively a civil disobedience, where does that leave those people doing the enforcement? And we already had some people intervening this evening in the Commons saying, well, why should we or our constituents follow these rules when they seem to be so arbitrary and are introduced by a government which seems not to want to follow its own rules itself. So there is a potentially very difficult situation here. And that's why I think the government has made an enormous mistake in trying to bring forward these new measures now, instead of waiting for more evidence, which it said it would be available next week. Why isn't it waiting for that evidence? And why doesn't it learn from the past? And Professor Ferguson was saying when we had the lockdown relaxed in July that there was going to be 100,000 or even 200,000 new cases a day as a consequence. Well, he was totally wrong. We had a maximum of about 30,000 cases, but we had similar scaremongering today from the health secretary saying that this is going to be, there are going to be millions of people who are going to be infected.
We still listen to them, even though time and again throughout this pandemic, Sage, Independent Sage, Ferguson, Whitty, they have all been wrong. I couldn't agree more, but it was a fascinating debate. Thank you for having it. That was Tory MP Sir Christopher Shope, and before that, the Boris biographer Tom Bauer. So who do you agree with? Tony writes on Twitter to say, who do they think they are helping, the people or the party? From here, I'd say neither. Glenn on email says, am I going to comply? Well, Boris, rearranged the words hell, cat, not, and chance to form a popular saying. I like that. As for mandatory vaccinations, good luck with that. Nobody has authority over my body. He can, as you put it, Dan, rack off. And Surrey, via Twitter, adds, yes, they do have the authority because we shouldn't let the transgressions of a few dictate what needs to be done to ensure public health. Well, the results are in. Only 14% of you agree that the government has the authority to introduce Plan B measures this week, while 86% of you say they don't. And as Sir Christopher Shope just spoke about, I wonder if that is going to lead to mass civil disobedience. And how does Boris deal with that? How does the police deal with that? We are in for a rocky few weeks, folks. Coming up, did the government stop following the science on vaccine passports because it was in need of a distraction? That's Reform UK leader Richard Tice's theory, and he'll be here to explain it at 10:20. But after the break, is Sarah Ferguson the most persecuted woman in royal history? Or would Anne Boleyn say she's lost her head? Crown Jewels with Robert Jobson is next.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Brendan O'Neill, Rod Little and Richard Tice all on the way. But first, Robert Jobson is here for Crown Jewels. And the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, has sparked controversy this week, as she always does, with another extraordinary soundbite. Speaking to the French magazine Madame Figaro, Fergie said, "I was maybe the most persecuted woman in the history of the royal family, but I'm still here. The bruised reed that doesn't break is in my DNA." So, is Fergie right? Or given that royal history is littered with women who've been locked up, exiled and beheaded, has she actually had it pretty easy? Jomo, this was quite a claim, wasn't it?
Oh, bless her, really, Fergie. I do like her, but she does come out with some utter guff sometimes. I mean, you've only got to look back through history, and it's not, pretty rudimental history to understand that it's a nonsense. I think she's talking about the online age, and even before that, when she did get a pretty bad press. But getting a bad press is not the same as Anne Boleyn having your head cut off, or being locked up like Mary Queen of Scots half your life and then having your head cut off. There's been plenty of people that have had worse experiences.
That is true. It was quite nasty calling her the Duchess of Pork. I will give her that. But Jobbo, what I thought would be fun is for you to pick your top 5 most persecuted female royals, so we can see if Fergie makes the list or if that woman Meghan makes the list too. So Jobbo, who would you say is your 5th most persecuted royal in history?
Go back the other way. I would say it's quite difficult because actually some of them are very well persecuted. But I would say my number. I'll put it the other way. I put my number 1 would probably be Anne Boleyn, because there was somebody who was despised not only by the people, because Catherine of Aragon was much beloved, but then when the palace whisperers turned against her, and then she had the case against her, even though it was not proven, and she had her head cut off. So I'd say Anne Boleyn's probably the most famous persecuted royal woman, and I think that Fergie must realise that she's nowhere near there. But
okay, who else? Who else is on your list?
Well, on my list would be Mary Queen of Scots as well, because she was imprisoned half her life and also ended up with the same fate. But they were going back too far down the line. I think that one that people won't really know about is Caroline of Brunswick, who was the wife of the Prince Regent, and somehow managed to bear him one child. Was very popular with the people because he was not very popular at all. But when it came to his coronation, when George III, the Mad King, died, she was even turned away from the coronation. Can you imagine that now with the cameras? So she was banging on the door to get in to be crowned, and they just slammed the door in her face.
Wow.
And 3 weeks later, she died. And on her coffin, it said Queen Caroline, the most injured Queen of England. So the injured Queen of England. So it just shows you that there were other cases. But, of course, in more recent times, you've had...
Let's bring it into this century. Yes, Wallace.
Yeah. Wallace Simpson, of course, who may not necessarily, because of the way the media worked, have been universally hated, because basically in the UK it was pretty much banned to even write about the affair between Edward VIII and Wallace Simpson, and it all came as a huge shock. But then, of course, she was seen as the woman that wrecked the monarchy, that destroyed his kingship, because he couldn't reign without the woman he loved. And then, of course, she was then persecuted for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
The royal family wouldn't allow her to be called
she
Royal
was
Highness.
a Nazi royal sympathiser, Jobbo.
She was then sent out. She was not allowed back into the country, and the Queen Mother never forgave her. So, yeah, and of course, I think, although I wouldn't say persecuted, I would say that Diana certainly had the most difficult of times. I mean, I was around at the time of Diana, and I think that, yes, although some people close to her think she was persecuted, I don't think she was. I think she was very much an independent woman who actually wanted to. She wanted to do the things she did, and she did them. And I think that it was just the marriage with the Prince of Wales, of course, was not compatible. I mean, I think you could also throw in there, before she married, of course, Camilla Parker Bowles, because she had her own issues with the media. And I think that all of those, with the greatest respect to Fergie, all of those people have had a bit more of a tough time than her.
What's fascinating to me there, Fergie doesn't make your top 6, and neither does a certain Meghan. And I think the less said about that, the better. Robert Jobson,
she may think she's the most persecuted, but she probably hasn't had enough time to be persecuted.
No, she wasn't persecuted. She was beloved, but, it suited the narrative, didn't it, Jobbo? Anyway, thank you so much. We'll speak again next week. Coming up, is the government using vaccine passports to distract from the most disastrous Christmas party of all time? Reform UK leader Richard Tice will weigh in the next hour. Plus, does Plan B represent a turning point against freedom? Brendan O'Neill weighs in straight after the break in Outsider.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Gradually through the next 24 hours, the wind is going to ease. Showers will ease with a better chance of some sunshine in places by Thursday. However, some more rain will move in from the west later in the day. Storm Barra is filling and moving away. As a result, the wind, on the whole, starting to lessen during the next 24 hours. And any showery rain that's still wrapped around that area of low pressure will also tend to disappear. But it's going to take some time, so further showers in places through the central zones and northwestern areas overnight. A better chance, though, in places of some clear spells developing through the night. And with those winds coming down, a touch of frost possible for parts of northern England, Scotland, for example, Northern Ireland, where we get some shelter, where we get those clear skies. A bright but chilly start in these locations, and then the last of Storm Barra, this area of cloud and some showers, moves east through Thursday morning, clearing by lunchtime, so a decent chance of sunshine in the east by the afternoon, whilst further west the cloud builds and another spell of rain moves in. It also brings milder air, 12 Celsius in the southwest, whilst it stays cold, 6 or 7 further east. And here's that band of showery rain. Nothing too problematic. It moves east for most places during Thursday afternoon and evening, clearing during the early hours, I think, from the far southeast. Then, once that's out of the way, we're into a clear spells and showery regime, with those showers pushing quite quickly into western areas, whilst clearing skies further east could lead to a touch of frost in some sheltered spots, but most places frost-free because of the breeze, I think, on Friday morning. The best of the sunshine on Friday will be in the east, perhaps the Midlands and southern England as well. However, in the northwest and west, we'll see frequent showers moving in, hail and thunder, snow over the mountains, and it will feel cold in the breeze. Saturday starts off chilly before rain arrives later, milder in the south on Sunday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. Brendan O'Neill is tonight's outsider. Disbelief and fury, I would say that's been the prevailing mood of the nation in wake of Boris Johnson's Plan B announcement in the past few hours, even from some of his most loyal supporters.
We will reintroduce the guidance to work from home. Guidance to work from home. Employers should use the rest of the week to discuss working arrangements with their employees, but from Monday, you should work from home if you can. Second, from this Friday, we will further extend the legal requirement to wear a face mask to most public indoor venues, including theatres and cinemas. Third, we'll also make the NHS COVID pass mandatory for entry into nightclubs and venues where large crowds gather, including unseated indoor venues with more than 500 people, unseated outdoor venues with more than 4,000 people, and any venue with more than 10,000 people.
The big fear among folk like Brendan, chief political writer at Spiked Online, is that we won't ever get to wake up from this nightmare before Christmas. In fact, he says it could be the turning point against freedom itself. And Brendan O'Neill joins me now. Brendan, that is a huge concern to me, because if we have these restrictions this winter, with 95% of the adult population swimming in COVID antibodies, I believe we will have restrictions every single winter forevermore.
Absolutely right. And I think today was a really important and terrifying day, because it kind of confirms that this is life now. This is the new normal. As you say, we've got very high levels of antibodies in this country. We've got a pretty high uptake of the vaccine. We were told that once we were vaccinated, we would get back to normal. And yet, in response to this new variant, we've got more restrictions. We've gone back into lockdown light. And the consequences are going to be severe, particularly the consequences of work from home. We know that work from home has an extraordinary impact on the economy. Hospitality businesses like cafes and pubs will suffer enormously if there isn't the footfall of everyday people going to work. This is going to have severe consequences. I think it's rash, and I think it's deeply worrying, because it seems now we are stuck in this authoritarian loop, and no one in the political class seems capable of pulling us out of it.
So what do we do, Brendan? Resist? Protest? Is mass civil disobedience the only thing that's going to make the government wake up?
I mean, that is the million-dollar question. What will make the government wake up? I think there's probably going to be either a sense of resignation amongst many people thinking, oh, here we go again, let's just get on with it. Or I think lots of people will just quietly ignore the rules and do what they want to do. I think that's just the way things are at the moment. But, my concern is that COVID now dominates everything. And I think we've got to start thinking about how unusual that is. The fact that COVID has dominated public life in this country for 2 years to the expense of everything else, the economy, general health, the treatment of cancer, children's education, and of course, most importantly, in my view, freedom. It's like we're treating COVID not as a health problem, but as this terrible god that we have to appease by making all these sacrifices. We're sacrificing the economy, we're sacrificing civil liberty, we're sacrificing the health of the nation outside of this particular virus. We're making all these rash, ridiculous sacrifices. It's not stopping the virus. That's been done by the vaccines and by other measures, and yet we keep on doing it. It really has become a very backward, almost medieval approach to this problem. We're killing society in the supposed name of public health, and I think that's a very dangerous road to be on.
You're so right, Brendan. That is perfectly put. And actually, the stats don't even back up this theory or this sense of fear around COVID. Only 5% of hospital bed occupation right now is through COVID cases, for example.
Yeah, and that really demonstrates that the political elite are addicted to worst case scenario thinking. This is the precautionary principle in action. It might get worse. There might be more hospitalizations. It might be even worse than Delta. Therefore, we have to take all these measures. It's the precautionary principle. And what people say is, well, it's better to be safe than sorry. But actually, that's not always true, because restrictions and precautions have an impact too. They have an impact on the health of the nation. We know that lots of cancers have gone undiagnosed, for example. They have an impact on the psychological health of the nation. They have an impact on the economic future of the nation, and they have an impact on people's right to make decisions about their own lives. So this idea that measures are always good because they will help to save few lives is just wrong, because they're also having an incredibly detrimental impact across society. So I think we now have to really demand that the government, focuses on other things apart from COVID-19. We are colonized by the COVID obsession. It's destroying our ability to focus on the genuine problems facing society, and it's making some problems worse. We have to shake out of this COVID obsession one way or another.
But Brendan, it could actually be about to get worse. The Prime Minister refusing to rule out introducing mandatory vaccination and actually suggesting that we need to have a national conversation about that. Can you believe that he's gone there?
That, for me, that was the most chilling thing about today, the fact that he wouldn't rule out mandatory vaccination. We know that that's being introduced in some European countries. It's going to happen in Austria. It's probably going to happen in Germany. To my mind, that's the end of freedom, because if the government is so powerful that it can instruct you on what to put into your own body, then that gives the state too much power, and it turns the citizen from a free person into an individual who must submit to medical intervention, or otherwise his life will be destroyed. In Austria, they're planning to fine people up to 7,200 euros if they refuse to get vaccinated. In other words, the state will destroy your life and push you into destitution if you do not go along with this medical compliance. Now, I'm pro-vaccination. I've been vaccinated. I think it's a good thing and it's really helped our societies. But it has to be a choice. And the fact that in a supposedly enlightened, free country like Britain, being run by a supposedly libertarian prime minister, the fact that they are contemplating such a devastating assault on bodily autonomy, that should send a chill down everyone's spine. And that's really a sign that we need to start pushing back against this now.
Oh, it does. It sends a chill down my spine. Fascinating analysis as ever. Brendan O'Neill, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock and breaking tonight. The Prime Minister says the government will bring in vaccine passports wider mask mandates and working from home guidance. So in light of that, I'll be asking, will the reintroduction of working from home kill off the economy? And will Brits be empowered to ignore these latest regulations in the wake of this alleged Christmas party at number 10 Downing Street? My panel will tackle both those questions in the media buzz. They'll also take a first look at how the newspapers are reacting to yet another monumental day in the COVID era. Plus, does the introduction of vaccine passports suggest the government has stopped following the science and is looking for a distraction? That's the view of Reform UK leader Richard Tice. He'll be here at 10:20. In other news, is Liz Truss right that infighting about Britain's history will empower our enemies? Rod Liddell gives his verdict in Uncancelled. Plus, can we forgive the Foreign Office's top civil servant for holidaying amid the Taliban's resurgence in Afghanistan? We'll get into that as my panel reveal their nominees for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass before the end of the show. But before all of that, the news at 10 with Simon Boosie.
Hello, I'm Simon Pusey and these are your latest headlines. The Prime Minister has announced England will move to Plan B COVID restrictions to curb the spread of the new variant. Across the UK, 131 additional Omicron cases have been confirmed today, bringing the total number of infections to 568. Boris Johnson is urging those who can to work from home from Monday. NHS vaccine passports will be mandatory in nightclubs, and from this Friday, face coverings will be compulsory in crowded indoor spaces, including cinemas and theatres.
Since I last spoke to you, it's become increasingly clear that Omicron is growing much faster than the previous Delta variant, and it's spreading rapidly all around the world. So while the picture may get better, and I sincerely hope that it will, we know that the remorseless logic of exponential growth could lead to a big rise in hospitalisations and therefore, sadly, in deaths. And that's why it's now the proportionate and the responsible thing to move to Plan B in England.
Boris Johnson there. Meanwhile, the police say they won't, at this stage, formally investigate allegations around the Downing Street Christmas party allegedly held under lockdown restrictions. It follows a leaked video obtained by ITV News, which shows an advisor to the Prime Minister joking about an alleged party held in number 10 in December last year. Allegra Stratton was seen laughing with other staff about cheese and wine during a mock briefing 4 days after the event. Boris Johnson told MPs he was furious with the conduct of his staff and ordered an investigation. Hours later, Ms Stratton announced her resignation.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules that people were doing everything to obey. That was never my intention. I will regret those remarks for the rest of my days, and I offer my profound apologies to all of you at home for them. I understand the anger and frustration that people feel. To all of you who lost loved ones, who endured intolerable loneliness, and who struggled with your businesses, I am truly sorry. And this afternoon, I am offering my resignation to the Prime Minister.
A new poll shows most people think the lockdown Christmas party did happen despite number 10's denials. The poll of Opinium found fewer than 1 in 10 voters believed Downing Street's claims that no party took place. 64% think the event happened, with 9% saying it didn't, and for the first time, the majority of voters, that's 53%, think Boris Johnson should resign as Prime Minister.
Opinion poll out today showed that the majority of the country, for the first time, a majority think that he should resign from the job that he's doing. The vast majority don't trust and believe that what he says. So he isn't a particularly popular politician. More people think that the moon landings were faked than think the Prime Minister is telling the truth about this story.
You're right up to date now. Back to Dan Wootton tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. And you can imagine what all of the newspapers are leading on. We've got a few now hot off the press. The Eye going with the Prime Minister's 24-hour U-turn on COVID Plan B. It reports that BJ rushed forward the restrictions in England after the outcry over Downing Street staff's jokes about the lockdown breach. They say it's raised concerns over the economic impact these measures will have on retail and hospitality,
during what is a crucial Christmas period. Also on the front page, that image of Allegra Stratton during her resignation today. The Metro accuses the PM of taking the public for fools. This is after more than half of respondents in 2 major polls today say Boris should resign. Now, it's not often that we feature the New European because their newspaper is usually full of what they have put on the front page there. But, you know, credit where credit's due. It is a hilarious and X-rated spin on today's Plan B announcement, mocking up Boris as his own Christmas album. On the track list, Where the Downing Streets Have No Shame, Don't Stop Till You Get a Cough, and It's My Party, and I'll lie if I want to. Look, I do have to point out on their behalf that the Downing Street bash only allegedly took place, of course. My superstar panel back with me now. It is the author and GB News presenter Tonya Buxton, the former newspaper editor and media consultant Neil Wallace making his superstar panel debut, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Now, as we spoke about earlier in the show, number 10 hit the panic button this evening and made the unfathomable decision to implement Plan B restrictions. This after they tried and failed to distract the public from a storm of revelations surrounding that infamous Christmas non-party.
We will reintroduce the guidance to work from home. Guidance to work from home. Employers should use the rest of the week to discuss working arrangements with their employees, but from Monday, you should work from home if you can. Go to work if you must, but work from home if you can. And I know this will be hard for many people, but by reducing your contacts in the workplace, you will help slow transmission.
Now, I've already said what an overreach these measures are, and the announcement tonight that businesses must begin plans for staff to work from home from Monday will actually be a death blow for many. Just this morning, the Institute of Economic Affairs warned that such a move could cost the UK economy £4 billion a month. So, Tonya Buxton, do you think the reintroduction of working from home will actually end up being the final nail in the coffin for our economy?
I think it's going to be one of the nails in the coffin. And I think what most people are thinking at the moment is, what is the justification? No one understands the justification. It's beyond belief that they've jumped into this for something that, as we know so far, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, but I read enough about it to understand that Omicron is like a cold. It's not even like a flu. So the Delta virus was flu-like. This is a cold. And for a cold, we're going to stop people going into work. We're going to stop them going into cafes. We're going to stop them travelling. We're going to stop them living their lives. So it's going to obliterate the economy. And the big guys are all fine. But the little deli that's on the way to the office, they're on their knees already. They're not going to be able to survive.
Exactly, the local pub.
Absolutely. The local pub, definitely, where people go for their lunches, this kind of footfall places that people pass when they go to the office. It's over for them now. They can't last anymore. And there's no money for them now. There's no furlough money. There was nothing. There was very little initially. But now there'll be nothing. There's no way they'll survive this, no way.
Now, Neil Wallace, I despise working from home, OK? I worked for you, Neil, when you were a fearsome newspaper editor dominating on Fleet Street. And come on, if I'd been at home, on my couch, in my pants, watching Loose Women, I wouldn't have been working hard for you. Surely you must accept that work from home is actually just a ticket for people not to work effectively.
I think the working from home thing is a ludicrous disaster. I just think it's complete madness. I think if you want a career, don't work from home.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to do your job properly, don't work from home. If you want to progress and be seen to be a go-getter and be seen to be someone who wants to make things happen, don't work from home, because you are not there. You're not going to know what's going on. Your bosses aren't going to see you. They're not going to understand who you are. Totally. Because all those things like Zoom and so on and so forth are wonderful. Yeah, it's all really lovely and cosy and sweet, isn't it? What you don't get there is me coming over to Dan Wootton and say, Dan, what the heck is going on this?
But what do you do? What do you do? If that's what your bosses are telling you, what do you do? How can you progress?
This is the issue that I have, because I know you think working from home is actually not such a bad thing. But the issue that I have is Neil's right. Some people will make a choice to go into the office. But, you know, a lot of these uber woke companies will actually not allow their young employees into the office, which means they are trapped in small flats, in central city apartments, trying to work from their bed. And it's just cruel.
Yes, it is. There are some people that it will work well for, and there are some that it won't work well for. There are some businesses that will work perfectly well for, and there are some, like a newspaper, newsroom, where it doesn't work very well for. And there, a lot of people think it's going to work very well for women. Actually, the evidence says the reverse, that women will get overlooked because women will feel they have to work from home in order to juggle childcare and kids, but actually they will then get overlooked for promotions and special projects and stuff. Now, I think the hit on the economy, so there's a short-term working from home because of a pandemic, and there's a long-term change. There is a happy medium. I think the two of you are slightly stuck in the dark ages in the way...
I'm a traditionalist.
In the way that you're looking at it, because there is definitely a happy medium where it can work for a lot of
Daisy,
people.
you're talking about these twits, the people that now just work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office, and then they swan off to some luxury home in the country, and they spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday there, and that is not good for the economy.
I think there's another issue that comes into this, and it's all very well if we simply look at it in terms of the economy, then we can argue about that. What it is, without doubt, a disaster for is societally.
Yes.
Domestic violence has gone through the roof.
But
violence against children.
But Neil, that was lockdown
Let's
that caused that. Not working from home is different from lockdown, and it was lockdown that caused the domestic violence.
The schools are open now, but I think it's a slippery slope, Tonya.
It is absolutely a slippery slope.
Because of cars, I mean, the truth of the matter is lockdown happened because of the pandemic, and people were thrown out of the cities, thrown out of their office, and sent home. And, you mentioned earlier about handsome young things such as yourself lying on the sofa there. Yeah. But what you had in reality is what's happened to a member of my family. He works from home in the family bedroom.
Yeah, it's awful.
Right, there are 2 children. There is his wife.
Awful.
They are living their lives around each other.
For well-off middle-class people, which is why the civil servants are pushing it, Tonya. But look, I live in London and I'm in central London every day. It breaks my heart, this decision, because let me tell you, central London is nowhere near back to where it was in February 2020. So this idea that everyone has returned to the city in their droves is a misnomer anyway.
But you can even see from big high streets like Oxford Street, Tottenham Court Road, that used to be the hub. All the shops that are shutting there, they're all being boarded up. They're all being bought by...
And by the way, it's the same situation in Birmingham. It's the same situation in Manchester.
All the high streets.
In Liverpool, I speak to loads of people who own the food stalls that serve those central city businesses. They simply cannot keep going.
But there are other elements. I mean, we often talk about the Prime Minister's Levelling Up project. In fact, it has been proven that a certain amount of a change within the workforce away from the southeast, because of working from home, can improve areas that have been struggling.
But aren't these jobs, Daisy?
But they're still staying at home.
You're an economic expert, Daisy. Aren't these jobs just going to end up being sent off to India?
No,
Bangladesh.
not necessarily. But a lot of the reason that
some could.
But some could. That what must happen is skills. Now that's a whole nother argument. One of the reasons that those jobs could end up going abroad isn't cost cutting. It's that we haven't got the kids with the technological skills. Now we're moving into a different area. But the working from home issue. I mean, there has been a lot of research in the last 18 months that suggests or even proves that productivity goes up 5%. It'll go
rubbish. What absolute rubbish.
You know what? Having seen kids work from home, so I've got 2 middle-aged. My daughters are 23 and 25, and all of their friends around ours a lot of the time because I have a slightly bigger house than some of the other parents do, and they come and work at home. They are not productive, and they're so down.
But kids
they're
need
so low.
That's
it. So we're going to decide what ages work from home.
This is a major factor. One of the things I was just going to bring up. One of the other effects of this pandemic have been the appalling behaviour of the teaching unions that have meant our children.
And even now, they want to stop teaching our kids, and that is another matter. But look, after a day like this, we're due a little bit of light relief, aren't we? So 2 viral videos from that Chinese social media company TikTok, which I'm sure is actually just the Chinese government spying on you, by the way. But these videos are bringing smiles to people's faces, so I'm going to share them. I love this one. It shows a 100-year-old grandma being moved to tears when she is shown the old cathedral she used to visit in her native Armenia via a virtual reality headset.
My 100-year-old Armenian grandmother Etchmiadzin Cathedral in virtual reality.
Now look around you. Look up.
You
see it, Nana?
Oh.
Nana, look around.
Okay, up and down. Why are you crying, Ma?
It's so beautiful. Nana, look to your left and your right, and look at the.
Ma.
Daisy's crying.
That
word.
I'm such a crybaby. I see an old lady with a hanky and I'm off.
Look, this won't make you cry. I think this will make you very happy. It is the moment that a couple's dog loses its mind during a beach proposal in Australia. Oh, the dog just knew, didn't he? Daisy McAndrew, Neil Wallace, Tonya Buxton, do stand by, because next up, did the government pull the pin on vaccine passports as a smokescreen? Reform UK's Richard Tice will deliver his blistering verdict straight after the break. Then the panel is back, and we're asking, will the alleged Christmas party storm empower Brits to ignore COVID regulations? And do you now have regrets over how you behaved in lockdown? I'm going to get the panel to get real about that in the Media Buzz. Plus, we'll also look at more of tomorrow's newspaper coverage of this monumental day.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Gradually through the next 24 hours, the wind is going to ease. Showers will ease with a better chance of some sunshine in places by Thursday. However, some more rain will move in from the west later in the day. Storm Barra is filling and moving away. As a result, the wind on the whole starting to lessen during the next 24 hours. And any showery rain that's still wrapped around that area of low pressure will also tend to disappear. But it's going to take some time, so further showers in places through the central zones and northwestern areas overnight. A better chance, though, in places of some clear spells developing through the night. And with those winds coming down, a touch of frost possible for parts of northern England, Scotland, for example, Northern Ireland, where we get some shelter, where we get those clear skies. A bright but chilly start in these locations, and then the last of Storm Barra, this area of cloud and some showers, moves east through Thursday morning, clearing by lunchtime, so a decent chance of sunshine in the east by the afternoon, whilst further west the cloud builds and another spell of rain moves in. It also brings milder air, 12 Celsius in the southwest, whilst it stays cold, 6 or 7 further east. And here's that band of showery rain. Nothing too problematic. It moves east for most places during Thursday afternoon and evening, clearing during the early hours, I think, from the far southeast. Then, once that's out of the way, we're into a clear spells and showery regime, with those showers pushing quite quickly into western areas, whilst clearing skies further east could lead to a touch of frost in some sheltered spots, but most places frost-free because of the breeze, I think, on Friday morning. The best of the sunshine on Friday will be in the east, perhaps the Midlands and southern England as well. However, in the northwest and west, we'll see frequent showers moving in, hail and thunder, snow over the mountains, and it will feel cold in the breeze. Saturday starts off chilly before rain arrives later, milder in the south on Sunday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
That here, folks, Boris Johnson confirmed tonight that vaccine passports will be made mandatory at large indoor venues from next Wednesday. Of all the measures that have been brought in since the birth of the pandemic, it's arguably these that have struck the most fear into folk. The creation of a two-tier society based on medical status is nothing short of dystopian, in my view, and one man who's been railing strongly against them today is Reform UK leader Richard Tice, pointing to real-time evidence coming out of countries who already adopted these measures. Richard alleged on Twitter, vaccine passports don't work. Masks don't work. This government is not following the science. It is distracting people to cover up its lies and incompetence. And Richard joins me now. Richard, are you accusing Boris Johnson of essentially introducing these measures to distract from the political crisis he's in as a result of this Christmas party?
Good evening, Dan. And in a simple word, yes. There's no question at all that the Prime Minister has, in essence, completely ignored the science. And he's just brought this in as what they call in the Westminster bubble a dead cat, to try and distract, to take people off the scent of the real story. Today, Dan, it's hard to know where to begin with today. It's been utterly, utterly seismic. There's no question the Prime Minister misled Parliament last week. And to think that against all the evidence on vaccine passports, I mean, let's just look at Belgium, Dan, or Germany, or France, or Ireland. All of them have had vaccine passports, and their case numbers have gone through the roof, way ahead of ours, and we haven't had vaccine passports. So the science is clear. The vaccine passports make zero difference. Even Nicola Sturgeon herself, the guru of COVID, has essentially had to admit they make no difference. And we know that masks make no difference. If they did, then why would Germany be having more cases than ever when they've been wearing the special surgical N95 masks since January, Dan? So all the evidence is there. Vaccine passports don't work. Masks don't work. Why else would the Prime Minister have introduced these measures? And it seems from sources, he essentially completely bounced and railroaded his cabinet into accepting the introduction of Plan B with these measures, with essentially no debate at all.
Well, I agree about debate. I mean, it didn't happen. Sajid Javid dragged into the House of Commons, no vote on this. But Richard, what worries me most is that actually this is a slippery slope to something that I never thought we would see in the UK, a potential debate around mandatory vaccination.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Supposedly the great libertarian himself, the very man that said if someone tried to get him to carry an ID card, he would grind it up, put it on his cornflakes and eat it. And just a few years later, far from that, actually, he's creating these cards and he's forcing us all to have them. it's utterly unbelievable. But the idea that we'd have mandatory vaccines, I knew something was wrong when Oliver Dowden went on the media last week, and he was asked by another broadcaster, will you confirm it's wrong and that the government will not introduce them? And you got that classic government spin. We have no plans to, which means basically watch this space. Within a week or two, it's coming in. I gave an immediate confirmation that Reform UK would never, ever entertain such a outrageous proposal. But yeah, the Prime Minister said, let's have a national conversation about it, having tried to say in the same conversation that he didn't want to do it. And this is the thing, isn't it? He says these words, that he doesn't want to do things. And if you believe the exact opposite of what he says, much of the time you'll end up being nearer the ultimate truth. And it's a terrible, terrible way for our country to be led. It's a terrible way for the people, all of us, to have confidence in the people who are leading us. And I don't know where this ends, Dan, but I think it's a very, very slippery slope.
Yeah,
and I think we have some dark days ahead.
We are. We're going to a dark place. And one of the big concerns that I have, Richard, is that there's no real opposition. Keir Starmer is someone who I've branded for the past year the leader of no opposition. Today, immediately, Labour just nodded this all through, not even a question. The Liberal Democrats, I'm sorry, they should be forced to change their name under the Trading Standards Act because there's nothing liberal or democratic about this party anymore. But the issue that you've got, Richard, is obviously you're not in Parliament. So surely if the Tories go down this path of mandating vaccination, your best hope is getting some of these disaffected Tories on the back benches who are freedom fighters to come and join you.
Goodness me. You must be reading into my mind, Dan. I mean, this is extraordinary. Have you hacked my mind? Look,
but is it going to happen, Richard? They have to have the balls to do it, don't they?
Yeah, look, of course, the reality is that they've all got, very cosy sinecures and a big 80-seat majority, and we know the next election is give or take a couple of years away. But the better Reform UK does on polls, on by-elections, then the easier it becomes for some very, very unhappy, very disaffected Tory MPs to say, enough is enough, I'm done. And the best way that I can shape and influence and improve the direction of the leadership of this great country of ours is actually to move over to Reform UK. And look, I think it's a matter of when, not if. And let's watch this space, Dan. But this is a really serious moment.
Well, Richard, I think
I want this great country to do.
Sorry, you just finished your point.
We want this great country to go from strength to strength. But at the moment, we are slipping from weakness to humiliating embarrassment, and it's disastrous.
Well, look, all I was going to say is Boris Johnson may have just made your job a lot easier by opening the door up to mandatory vaccination, because that is going to send a shiver down the spine of the Tory freedom fighters on those backbenches who have been doing a decent job in difficult circumstances. Richard Tice, leader of Reform UK, thank you so much for being here tonight. Coming up, is Liz Truss right that infighting about Britain's history will put us in danger from our enemies? Rod Liddle gives his verdict in Uncancelled. But next in Media Buzz, will that alleged Christmas party storm empower Brits to ignore new COVID regulations? Some of you have already told me it's the final straw. I'll get my panel to weigh in after the break.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge. and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. We've got lots of front pages just in now. None of it makes good reading for Boris Johnson. The Sun has mocked him up as the Grinch that stole Christmas. And the headline reads, "Do as I say, not as I Christmas do." Plus, this is great news if true. Strictly Come Dancing judge Shirley Ballas reportedly set to get married for the third time to her boyfriend, Danny Taylor. Congratulations, Shirley, if that is right. Don't go to work, but do go to parties. That leads the Daily Telegraph. This is in response to the new COVID Plan B measures the Prime Minister announced this evening, which has prompted immediate backlash at the irrational rules. They also lead on the PM calling for a national debate about mandatory jabs. I think this might be the most worrying thing on that front page, though, for Boris Johnson. The strap along the top there, an opinion piece by the Sunday Telegraph's brilliant editor, Alistair Heath, with the headline, "Beginning of the End for Boris." And you know he cares about what the Daily Telegraph, his old newspaper, puts on the front page. The Guardian, as you'd expect, are leading with the major COVID story this evening with the line, "PM triggers COVID Plan B as party scandal engulfs number 10. The Independent also leads on Plan B, as well as that harrowing image, actually, of the PM's former press secretary, Allegra Stratton, confirming her resignation outside her home in London. The Mail's headline, "One rule for them, new rules for the rest of us." Plus an interesting take on the row from Sarah Vine, who says of Stratton, "Why is it always the woman who carries the can?" The Northern Echo, meanwhile, declares party time is over. First for Boris, then for Allegra Stratton, and then the rest of us as a result of the introduction of Plan B. PM orders return to working from home, leads the Times, like the rest of the papers tomorrow. It also follows the new COVID Plan B rules, which are hoped to stop the spread of the Omicron variant. But they also have reports on what they describe as a second raucous Tory party. They say Conservative staff danced and drank wine late into the night at another event of the 18th of December, while senior advisors working in Downing Street held a Christmas quiz one night, with one source claiming Johnson's incoming chief of staff took place. Those revelations follow the resignation of Allegra Stratton, who we also see on that front page. My superstar panel back now. The GB News presenter Tonya Buxton, former newspaper editor Neil Wallace, and the political commentator Daisy McAndrew. Look, it was clear to me after that bombshell tape yesterday of the PM's cackling cronies that the people in power don't believe in the inhumane, draconian and blanket COVID restrictions they have been enforcing on all of us for the past 20 months. Surely this alleged Christmas party storm is going to empower previously compliant folk like the GB News viewer Chrissy Lefranc, who sent me a really moving tweet last night, actually, after the show, and I wanted to share it with you. Following my interview with Nigel Farage, she wrote, "I'm sitting here in tears after your interview with Nigel just now. Even liberal sorts like Sky..." Oh, no, that's not the full tweet. I can't read out the rest of it because I'm so blind. Can you read it, Tonya?
"I'm sitting here in tears after your interview with Nigel just now. I wasn't able to visit my mother in a nursing home last Christmas, and it was her last one, which she spent alone without family. To say I'm angry is an understatement. I'm absolutely effing livid." That's from Christine.
I feel your pain, Chrissy. I feel your pain. I'm effing livid too.
And look, even Liberal sorts like Sky News political editor Beth Rigby pointed out in today's briefing that the government's ability to call the shots had been completely undermined. That's the irony of ironies, of course, after she was suspended for being caught at a Christmas party of her own last year.
Scientists, people are going to feel pretty flat today listening to this press conference. They were told to get their jabs, to get their boosters, that we would have an irreversible path out of lockdown, that life would continue. Winter comes. We are now being told that we have to live with restrictions again. Is this just the reality of living with COVID? So this is not just another year this is happening, but this is our lives now for years to come. I think people will be worried about that.
And now Boris has been openly mocked in the form of sort of hilarious, slightly disturbing memes like this. It's brilliant, and it's not too far from the truth. So, how on earth do Boris and his government have the authority to enforce new measures curtailing our freedoms and civil liberties? And look, Daisy, have you got any regrets, like Chrissy, about how you behaved last Christmas? Because I do.
I don't have regrets because I'm glad I did what I could do to protect people. I am, like everyone else, sick to the back teeth at the idea that there I was doing my best. You know, my 82-year-old mother spending 99% of her time all alone, and Downing Street was having parties. On the Allegra Stratton thing, I kind of agree with Sarah Vine. I'm really irritated that it has become the Allegra Stratton story.
Yeah.
Because
she's a tiny part of the story. She was just the one that was caught.
The reason that video was so explosive, and it was explosive, was that it proved, to my mind, that Downing Street was lying. Allegra Stratton didn't go to the party. She didn't publicly lie about it. She didn't go to the House of Commons and say there wasn't a party. In fact, it looked to me like she was embarrassed even having to try to come up with an answer to that question. And I wonder if that's why she never actually got that job, because she wasn't good enough at lying. I mean, I feel sorry for her.
I have to admit, I feel sorry for her too, but it was a pathetic response, because if that had been at a real press conference, Neil Wallace, she just screwed up big time. But Neil, I think why the conversation was so powerful is because, to me, it shows these are the conversations that have been taking place behind the scenes at Downing Street every hour of every day for the past 20 months. And I do feel like they're taking the piss out of us.
I think that we are seeing the utter inadequacies of Boris Johnson as a Prime Minister, sadly. I think we're seeing a meltdown of him. I think that leaders create an atmosphere in a place. Leaders create a culture. And the problem is Boris Johnson thinks about Boris Johnson and what Boris Johnson wants. And so everybody else just runs around in there, apparently doing whatever they like. And you've only got to look back at Dominic Cummings, haven't you, to see he regarded himself as a real Prime Minister. And I think what is coming out here is a sign of a sort of culture of anything really went, and also the bubble that happens in politics, and in particular in Downing Street. It doesn't refer to us. We're ruling. It doesn't actually impact us here in this tiny little
But now,
enclave.
Tonya, they have a massive issue, because I think there are a lot of people who were following the rules last year who simply won't follow the rules anymore as a result.
I hope not. I mean, I know so many people that lost loved ones from last year to this year for many reasons. Some were already sick, and there's lots of reasons. Lost them, and they are so haunted by it. They're haunted by the fact that they followed the rules. And this will stay with them forever. I didn't follow the rules. My father-in-law turned up about 4 weeks into the lockdown. He's 81 years old and said, "I'd rather be dead." And that was his choice. That was his choice. Remember the lovely weather that we had in the first lockdown? And he came. My mother-in-law didn't. She didn't. She was frightened. So she didn't. So we didn't see her. So we had times that we did not see her. And now she's here no longer. So do I have regrets? I broke the rules with my father-in-law coming round, and I regret the fact that I didn't go and make sure that we saw more of her. And I can say it now, if anyone is lonely and someone needs somewhere to go, and these rules come through that put us, so we can't see people, so they're isolated again, come to my house. I will have an open house. I won't follow it. I've seen too many people fall down holes. I've seen depression. I've been speaking to mothers who have sons the same, similar ages to mine, who they had their sons on suicide watch because they were so worried about them.
Totally.
So we're not doing this again.
And look at the case of Arthur, you know, whose uncle was told, do not go around to that house despite your concerns because you might be arrested for breaking lockdown rules. I'm angry with myself, if I'm completely honest, because I railed against these rules for months and months and months. But last Christmas, I woke up on my own, I went to work, and then I went to bed on my own. I cancelled all of my plans and I didn't see any of my loved ones because I believe in the rule of law. But I'm
Dan,
starting
last
to think
Christmas
now...
was different. We didn't have the vaccination programme, so it was more important that we all followed the rules.
Well,
so I don't think we should...
I don't think
they don't work.
I don't think lockdowns
None
work.
of them have worked, have they?
And I think if you look at the behaviour of the staff at number 10 Downing Street...
They know they don't work.
They know they don't work because otherwise they wouldn't have been partying.
Are you saying vaccines don't work or lockdowns don't work?
No, lockdowns
No, but I was saying was now we've got vaccines, so that does make... You know, I would be more comfortable people breaking the rules now than I would be... I wasn't comfortable...
I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of civil disobedience going on. But look, HBO Max has revealed its first teaser to the upcoming Harry Potter 20th anniversary return to Hogwarts. This is going to be huge. So, as you saw there, it teased the name of every single major Harry Potter actor from across the franchise. Did you notice? One name is missing. Mrs. Harry Potter herself, J.K. Rowling, who unbelievably seems to have been cancelled by Hollywood because of her views on the trans debate. Absolutely astonishing stuff. How can you have a Harry Potter reunion without J.K. Rowling? Tonya Buxton, Neil Wallace, Daisy McAndrew, do stand by because coming up, can we forgive the Foreign Office's top civil servant for holidaying amid the Taliban's resurgence in Afghanistan? We'll get into that as my panel nominate for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But next, is Liz Truss right that refusing to embrace our history puts Britain at risk? Rod Liddell will have his say. That's in 30 seconds. First, though, here's what's coming up in tomorrow's show.
Coming up on Dan Wootton Tonight, should the death penalty be reintroduced for child killers after the murder of Arthur Labinjo Hughes? I'll get your verdict in the clash. Is the Together movement our best hope of saving us from vaccine passports? Alan Miller, one of the coalition's major figures and co-founder of Open for All, joins me in Uncancelled. Plus, GB News star Mark Dolan gives his verdict on a crazy week, and I'll break down the day's top headlines with my superstar panel. Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, Conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, and the broadcaster and author Amy Nicole. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
But it's time now for Uncancelled. And you know this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media and universities, as we discussed last night. It's been overshadowed somewhat by the big COVID news of the day, but Liz Truss gave her first major address as new Foreign Secretary, in which she hit out against those who want to erase Britain's history. Speaking to the Chatham House Policy Institute, the potential future PM, maybe that's going to happen sooner rather than later after this week, urged the nation to embrace its past, warts and all, and warned that infighting would leave us vulnerable to hostile states.
I don't think there's a country in the world you could point to that has had a perfect history of modern liberalism. But where we are now is we are a great country. We are a free country. Everybody in Britain has the opportunity to succeed, and we've got to be proud of that. So let's stop fighting about the past. Let's start fighting for the future, because that's what our adversaries are thinking about. They're not thinking about what happened in the past in their countries. They're busy out there with malign information on the internet or...
Now, Rod Liddell agrees with Truss that attacks on our history have gone too far
and infantile given the threats we're facing right now. Rod, do you think today we saw maybe the end or the beginning of the end of the Boris reign and the very beginning of a potential Truss premiership?
I don't know about the latter bit. I certainly think it's the beginning of the end of the Boris reign. If you knew the fury people in the northeast, which attends to this Christmas party and the various lies which have surrounded it. So I don't know about Liz, but certainly I think Boris hasn't got long for this world, hopefully. But what Liz Truss was saying about history is interesting. I don't really think it's a massive issue as far as our enemies are concerned. Countries such as Russia and China rewrite their histories every 15 years according to how it suits them. That's the benefit of being in a totalitarian state. We're edging towards that kind of totalitarianism with our own revisionism of history. And it's not the succor it might give to enemies that bothers me. It's the fact that history is a wonderful, marvellous thing which we ought to revel in, understand and learn. And that this way of looking at history, the way that we're trained to look at history, particularly at Britain's history, the West's history, is not merely infantile, but incredibly stunted. It looks at history solely through the prism of identitarian politics, according to race, gender, sexism, and so on, and ignores nuance, ignores context, ignores the truth, effectively, when we look at history. And that's the real problem. And it's good to see that Liz Truss is addressing this, because, to be absolutely honest, one of the problems with this Conservative government has been an insufficient kickback against this wokeism, which is trying to destroy our history and rewrite our history.
And Rod, the thing is, the people are with Liz Truss.
Oh, there's no question about it. On this issue, so many issues, as on the issue of transgenderism, as on the issues of critical race theory, the public is wholly against this attempt to redefine Britain and to redefine the way in which we live our lives and to separate us all into competing hierarchies of victimhood. And that's what they're trying to do in history at the moment. And they're trying to do it in history by, it leads you down a ludicrous rabbit hole, the sort of rabbit hole where you suddenly find that, for example, Martin Luther King could well be cancelled because of his views on homosexuality, which were, a bit to the right. But then he was brought up, in a religious background in the south of America 70 years ago. What do you expect? There is no room in the woke warriors' analysis of history for nuance, context, and indeed tradition. No room at all.
You're completely right. Rod Little, another fascinating Uncancelled. Thank you so much. We'll speak again next week, Rod. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. And my superstar panel is back with me. You know, it's the GB News star, Tonya Buxton, the former newspaper executive, Neil Wallace, and the political commentator, Daisy McAndrew. So, Daisy, let's kick off with you. Who's your greatest Brit this evening?
So, my greatest Britain tonight is a lady called Jackie Scully. I have to admit that Jackie's somebody I know. She works with my sister for a publishing company, Think Publishing. But Jackie has done the most incredible thing this week. For her 40th, she's had cancer in the past. She decided to break the Guinness World Record for the longest spin class, as in on a bicycle. You see them. And that, in the middle there, is my sister waving pom-poms to keep them going. They went for 29 hours. Solid. That's 1 o'clock in the morning there.
I'm just thinking of the glutes, Daisy, and how painful that would be.
Apparently, it wasn't just their bottom and their thighs; it was also their hands from holding on for 29 hours. But they raised more than £40,000, and they broke the world record. But it hasn't been validated yet. But we know that it's going to be.
Amazing!
So
congratulations
incredible,
to them.
Jackie Scully.
Neil Wallace, your nomination for the greatest Britain.
Well, it's not an individual, it's a group of people, really. And it's the journalists of this country who have just kept worrying away at the great powers that be, and in particular have continued to fight the corner against, for instance, Meghan and Harry. And yes. the way the Mail on Sunday, the Mail, the rest of the national press have stood up for freedom of expression, for the right of people like you, like Rod Little, like me, like Daisy, you know, all of these journalists who are out there putting alternative views. And so I think they have been particularly present this week. The Mirror, for instance, exposing the original story about the Downing Street.
Yeah, not often I praise the Daily Mirror, but they have done good work there. Well, Tonya Buxton, your nomination for Greatest Britain.
So I think today of all days, it's really important that we hold up Lord Sumption, who was the Chief Lord Justice of this country and has really come out and talked about how damaging lockdowns are. And I'm going to read something that he wrote, which I think is brilliant. Sometimes the most public-spirited thing you can do with despotic laws like this is to ignore them. I think that if the government persists long enough with locking people down, depending on the severity of lockdown, civil disobedience is likely to be the result. It will be discreet, civil disobedience in the classic English way. Well, I'm not sure. I'm half Greek, so, you know, mine won't be quite as civil, but it will be disobedient. And he is the Lord Chief Justice, and he sees that these laws are immoral and illiberal.
He was. And Tonya, I'm going to go with Lord Sumption. Actually, you've played into me there because he was actually my first ever guest on this show. I think he's been a hero throughout this period, and we'll have to get him back very soon. Actually, Union Jackass time now. Daisy, who are you nominating?
I am nominating Sir Philip Barton from the Foreign Office, who gave evidence about the absolute, and I've got your permission to say this, Dan, shit show.
Oh no, you're going to get me in trouble now.
The Foreign Office presided over during the evacuation of Afghanistan when he went on holiday for not 1, not 2, but 3 weeks and didn't come back.
And they're all working from home, Daisy, proving my point that you cannot be as effective.
OK, so I read the full 40 pages of evidence that the whistleblower did. And in fact, the working from home element didn't help. But in fact, the problem's much, much, much bigger than that. Much bigger.
No, it was.
So
Neil Wallace, your nomination for Union Jackass.
I've got 3 of them, actually, and they're the judges of the Court of Appeal who, going back to what I was saying about Meghan and Harry, that court case, they stuck a huge axe through press freedom in their decision to uphold a liar, a woman who admitted that she lied to a previous court, and yet they said that was fine. And that is an utter disgrace, and they are jackasses.
Tonya Buxton, your nomination for Union Jackass. I have a feeling I know who you're going to choose tonight.
Is there anyone else this evening? It's bumbling Boris.
Oh, I knew
British
you'd say that.
jackass. He thinks that he's going to be remembered like Churchill. Oh my God, it makes me cry with laughter at that thought. Boris is a bumbling... Oh, I'm trying not to swear. The B word's coming out. He's just a fool. He's a fool who doesn't care about our liberty. He doesn't care about our health. He doesn't care about any of us. He's a complete bumbling idiot, and he is a complete and utter jackass.
Well, look, I'm very opposed to everything that Boris has done today. I still hold hope that he's going to return to be that great Prime Minister, that man who delivered Brexit. I think we have to have hope of that. But I'm actually going to back Neil Wallace. The Union Jackasses are most certainly the judges in the Meghan Markle case. This was one of the worst rulings in recent British legal history. It shows that the justice system in this country is absolutely stacked against the truth tellers in the favour of the rich, the powerful, and yes, the royal. And that is wrong. What a fabulous superstar panel it has been on a very big night of news. Tonya Buxton, Neil Wallace, Daisy McAndrew, thank you so much. I'll be back again tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Headliners is up next, though. Good night.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Gradually through the next 24 hours, the wind is going to ease. Showers will ease with a better chance of some sunshine in places by Thursday. However, some more rain will move in from the west later in the day. Storm Barra is filling and moving away. As a result, the wind on the whole starting to lessen during the next